And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
The name Village doesn't really inspire awe, but this game has won award after award after award. Now, if you've watched many of my reviews in the past, you would say, Vasel, why are you reviewing Village? I can tell you right now that you're not going to like it. Well, that's not necessarily true. I do like some Euro games. I like a lot of them, actually, but this is more of a heavier, meatier version of a Euro game, but I do like a lot of theme, and that's one thing I had heard about Village, was that the theme showed forth more in this game. Village has a very interesting mechanic of death. Now, I'm not a fan, I'm not someone who's morbid, who likes death, but it fits into the theme of this game in a very interesting way. Let's take a look. Alright, let's take a look at this game. I'm not going to go over every single detailed rule. The game isn't that complicated, but I'm just going to give you a basic way of how the game plays. And I wanted to take you and show you really the nice artwork in this game. I mean, it really does look nice, although somewhat problematic, and I'll mention that later, but it really looks good. The game has a very good look about it. Now, at the beginning of each game, you need to determine how many players are playing the game, 2, 3, or 4. And at the beginning of each round, you are going to use the board that has your player's colors. And this tells you how many cubes to put in the bag. So 5 pink, 5 brown, 5 green, and 5 red. And as many black cubes as you have, put them in the bag. And then you'll draw them out and put them, a certain number of these, in each of these colored spots on the board. So you can see I've done that just as a sample. And this is actually not even correct. I just kind of put some random cubes out there. But just kind of to show you what the board looks like. And then, starting with the first player, whoever has the first player token, and going around the board, each player is going to take one of these cubes, and they get to keep the cube, and then they get to take the action of that area. So you can see some places have more actions that you can take. Other places have one or only a few. And so you'll be debating, do I want the cube for the resource, or do I want the action? There are black cubes out there, and those black cubes are the plague cubes, and I'm going to talk about them in just a bit. But I just want to quickly go over what some of these actions are that are out there. But before I did that, let's take a gander here at your own personal farmyard that you have. Each player has a farmyard here, and in this farmyard they have 4 people who have little stickers on them that say 1. You have 4 of these. This is the first generation, and you will get more people as time goes by. But these people you're going to send out to work. Here you have a spot to put different grain, and you also might have some money that you'll have to do various functions as the game progresses. And money is basically a wild cube, and that comes in handy very often during the course of the game. But anyhow, when you come back here, there's different things that you will do. You will often go over here to the market, and when you take one of these cubes here, there's different spots, and each spot gives you different things. You can straight up buy what you need from the market. Like, for example, if I need this scroll here, I can pay a pink cube to take that scroll token, or I can train a guy to do it. It costs 2 time units to train this guy, and then 2 more every time he produces something. So I take one of my guys and I pay 2 time units to put him there, and then 2 more time units to produce the scroll. So it costs 4 time units. And once he's there, though, on future turns, and he'll be here actually, on future turns I just have to pay 2 time units because he's already trained. But if something happens to him, I'll have to train someone else. Alright, let's talk about time. The reason time units are important is because of your board here. If you notice on your board here, you have this little token that moves around. Every time you spend time units, you move this token. Every time you take a plague thing, you move this token. When it comes around and crosses the bridge, okay, every time it crosses the bridge, someone from you has to die. And it has to be one of your oldest people, so one of your number 1s. Then if all your number 1s are dead, then one of your number 2s and one of your number 3s. You're going to have people around the board in different spots. Like this guy here is trained now to make scrolls, but I might have to kill him because he's the only one. When I kill someone, I look, and here's a book of memories. If there's a spot in the section that he was killed in, and this one's yellow, then I can put him in that section. Hooray, we will remember him forever. If all those spots are filled by various people and someone else dies and they were in that yellow section, then they go over here and are buried in an unmarked grave. It's very sad, and I would tell you more, but I've already forgotten who that person was. The rest of this is pretty standard gear. You can go here to get bags of grain. You can go here to get more workers. You take the next smallest number, so you take 2s until you're out of 2s, then you add a 3s, and you have a whole pile of workers over here you can see that you will be adding. Here you throw somebody into a black bag at the church, and at the end of each round, you will be pulling people from this bag. There's black people in this bag too. They're kind of like the monks, so when you pull them, it's not so useful, but you want to get your guys into church and advance them in church to give you points at the end of the game. Over here, you can move up in the hall here, which will give you special abilities and points at the end of the game. You can send one of your people out here, and they will travel around the board up here, and the travel costs time units and cubes and wagons as you travel. And when you go to each new spot, you'll get a bonus, like maybe victory points or maybe 2 cubes. And you will also put one of your markers on those spots to remember that you've gone there as you travel around the board. And then finally, there's the market. When you go here, everybody can use the market. You get to use it first in order. And if you have the different things here, for example, if you have a scroll and a cow, I can sell it for 5 victory points. If I have different things, I can sell them for different amounts of victory points, including the bags of grain, which is something that you'll get from this spot down here on the board. You can get bags of grain, and depending on how many workers you have, and a horse or an oxen will get you more bags of grain. So you're moving around doing all those things, and the more you do, obviously, the more people are going to die and come to this book. And once either the book is filled or the unmarked graves is filled, whichever one happens first, the game is going to end, and people are going to get points depending on where their people are here in church, depending on where they are here, depending on how many cities they visited. You know, if you visit all 6 cities, that's 18, depending on how many people they have in the Book of Remembrance. And there's a couple other ways to get victory points. Coins become victory points, and whoever has the most victory points is the winner. Village has a really neat mechanic in the Book of the Dead, I guess. It's very interesting because what the game does is it forces you to use people, and you send them out there. I like the training aspect, to train them to produce grain for you. The problem is that when you put them out there, eventually they're going to die on you. So you have to make tough decisions on who to die, and eventually all your older people are going to die. And sometimes you actually encourage them to die, so you can get that spot in the Book of the Dead to get more points. So that's a very interesting mechanic, and I don't think I've ever seen it in a game before. The artwork in this game is excellent, very well done. It has a very good look. The components are great, although putting those stickers on was a real pain in the neck. I mean, more so I think than putting stickers on almost any other game I've done before. Because you had to stick them on, they were square stickers and they had to be diagonally pasted on, and there was a lot of them. And you say, oh, boo-hoo. Yeah, boo-hoo. I want a game that requires a little less effort, please. But that aside, once you get the game out and you play it, it looks neat. And the theme comes through. Now, there are a few spaces on the board where I thought the artwork almost interfered with the design of the game, where I was like, oh, what does that space do? And the artwork, and they had the different plots of land around, and some of them, oh, that goes with the church. No, it doesn't go with the church, it goes with this spot. Oh, that's right. But it was so close to the church. It's a minor quibble, but I noticed it, and I don't always notice it in games, where the design kind of was hindered a bit by how beautiful the game was. There are a lot of people who like this game, and like I said earlier, that the idea of people dying is a good one. The gameplay seems solid. I really like the aspect of you taking a cube to do an action, and sometimes that cube may not be what you like, and the time of moving around your token and watching people die is a good mechanic. But when it all comes down to it, the game itself, the people who died were interesting. That concept of going to book, but moving a guy around and traveling and paying cubes, and then I went over here and took some cubes and bought some stuff and sold it at the market, and then I went over here to the church and moved different spots, and suddenly I realized I was just moving cubes around to get points. And you say, but Tom, every single game can be abstracted down to that. You're right, it can be. But this one, despite the artwork, despite that theme, when it came down to it, lots of the time I just felt like I was being as efficient as I could possibly be. And there's going to be people who like that. Obviously, it's won so many awards. Who am I? I know nothing. But when I first played it, I thought, wow, that the whole mechanic where the people go out and die, it's interesting, and it added so much to it, then the rest of it kind of dragged it down. So, my final opinion on Village is mediocre. I don't dislike it. I would play it if you asked me to play it, but I was like so interested in it, and then at the end, it just felt like yet another boring Euro. It's not boring, but it comes awfully close. What do I know?
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.